Hey everyone, my name is Eric Escobar. I'm putting on the wireless capture the flags, and I thought before I did that, I would explain a little bit about what wireless CTF is and some offensive, defensive stuff for wireless security. So just a little bit about me. Oh, and if you guys doing the whole code thing, just code. So just a little bit about me. I'm a software engineer. I work for Barracuda Networks, and specifically, I'm on the security team. We call ourselves the BNSec team for Barracuda Networks Security. If you're familiar at all with Barracuda Networks, we do a lot of firewalls. We do a lot of web filters. We have on-premise. We have off-premise. We have stuff that integrates with Office 365. We have a lot of appliances. So all that to say that the security team is fairly small for what we have. And we get to cover a lot of ground, which lets us learn a lot of really cool tricks, and it's really broad, and it's really a wide base of things we get to do. So for me, I specialize in wireless stuff. I do a lot of wireless 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz. Then I do a lot of SDR stuff. Primarily, what I do in terms of security testing, I do a lot of red team. I do some blue team. Just everything in the mix. The security team, we're in charge of network security. We're in charge of security for our appliances. We're in charge of security from attackers, sending phishing emails, from, vishing, pretty much anything you can think of. If a user gets a really bad virus and we think that there might be a data breach, that's something that we deal with. So all that to say that every year we go to DEFCON as kind of like a pilgrimage to learn the new state of the art, what's new, what's out there. What new exploits are there, and pretty much just to get in touch with the hacker culture and just kind of see things from the eyes of a hacker. And so going after that, there's CTFing. And how many of you guys are familiar with what CTF is? Cool, so strong left side of the room, or I guess your right side of the room. So at a lot of hacker conferences, this one included, there's what's called CTF, and if you're not familiar with it, it's capture the flag. And this is a way to test your ability to how far you can get into a network. Flags, they can be pretty much anything. They can be a password, it can be a file, it can be text, it can be a picture, or you can even plant your own flag. This is becoming pretty popular when you can plant flags that will do damage to other people if you get there before somebody else does. And so a lot of this comes back to learning. We do this every Friday at our office. Somebody will set up a new box, and it'll be first one to get root on the box wins, so it'll be anything from a web server. It'll be something with a WAF in front of it. It will, just be any one of our appliances. It will be something that we're trying to harden, something that we're doing testing on for one of the other teams in our organization. And it brings a lot of camaraderie because you get to work and leverage people on your team. And you get to learn to think like an attacker. I think that's the most important part. You get to think outside the box, and it'll help you bolster your defenses. So we go up to our corporate office a lot, and we'll just run engineers through a basic CTF, and they get to learn things that they normally would have no idea. Like, hey, maybe you shouldn't put your Git repository on your web server. Maybe you should put some ACLs in place. And when they get to see these things firsthand, when they get to see like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, that was really easy to break. Maybe I should use a better password because if I added one more character to that, it would have changed it from being a 10-minute attack to a couple-day hack to where, it may be impossible to brute force it within some foreseen amount of time. And so for tools that you need, a lot of you guys, if you're seasoned, experts, you can just use your standard Debian distro, no big deal. For someone getting started, I recommend downloading Kali Linux. It's a live boot that you can just put onto a disk. You can put it onto a USB key. You can boot from it, any changes to your normal laptop, and you can get going from there. And you don't even need a special wireless card generally because a lot of the software now takes into account all the different chipsets, so you don't even need to worry about that. So this last year we went to DEFCON and we won the Wireless Capture the Flags Challenge there, so that was super cool. And so some of the things that we learned from there, it was how to leverage each other, how to be on a team, how to communicate, some of the basics of just being in an organization. It helps bring people together. So some of the challenges that there are and that we'll have tomorrow if you guys want to partake in the Capture the Flags is, what do you do with an open network? If you go to 99% of the places, around anywhere, there's going to be an open network that's guest Wi-Fi. And oftentimes it is an off-the-shelf router that somebody's going to have set up, and it's going to be at a coffee shop. And everybody's going to think, hey, hunky-dory, I get free Wi-Fi, and I can just go do whatever I want. Check my Facebook, check my bank account. I can do whatever I want. And so that challenge, what can you steal on the network? If you go look back there, they have a general sniffing going on, no SSL stripping involved, but you can see what credentials get leaked in clear text. And it's really scary, especially if you're a part of a large organization. If you just do a clear text password search, and you man in the middle of something, and you just sniff, there's a lot of really scary stuff that you can find. And engineers that know better, engineers that go through a CTF, and they see, oh wow, that was really easy to just, fire up Wireshark, fire up EtherCap, and I can just see anything coming across the wire. It's really scary, and it's another good reason to do a CTF. So the next thing is breaking web. So web is broken. It's been broken for a really long time. And yet a lot of people still use it. I mean, if you just open up a box and you look at, hey, what kind of security is around me in terms of wireless? Typically, there's going to be a lot in residential neighborhoods of routers that have just never been updated, or even businesses where they get some crummy one that's provided to them by their internet service provider. So web is completely breakable in about 3 minutes. If you don't know anything about what you're doing, you can watch a YouTube video of an 11-year-old showing you how he broke his grandma's web. And it's kind of insane, and so you should never use it. It's just a step above just an open network. And actually, I would say it might even be a step below, seeing as you have the illusion of security when there really isn't any. The next is WPA and WPA2. These are, what is secure now. They're not broken like WEP is. You can't just go bash it with a hammer. If you're going to try and break this, you're going to have to get really lucky in guessing a password, or you're going to have to brute force it. And brute forcing it, depending on the complexity, could take you a really, really long time. And it's also one of these things that if you know who your victim is or who you're going after, if you're a red team and you're trying to infiltrate some network, it is not hard to get a WPA2 password. It'll involve some social engineering, maybe a guessing of some names, dates, standard passwords, the address, the phone number of the IT person you're calling. There's a lot of really scary things that I've seen out there, and it's mind-blowing to thinking like, oh yeah, a telephone number, you think, oh okay, at best that's 10 characters. That'll only take me 2 weeks on a graphics card to crack, no problem at all. So people think like, oh, I have WPA2 enabled. Well, you have to have a strong password as well. My personal favorite is finding a rogue access point. So this is known as fox hunting, and this is one of my favorite events because you can do it with ham radio, you can do it with a bunch of different other radio signals, but it's particularly easy to do with Wi-Fi on 2.4 because you can just go walk around with your phone, you can go walk around with a laptop, and you can get somebody who knows next to nothing about wireless security, and you can get them kind of trying to figure out like, oh man, how do I track down a rogue access point? We'll talk more about that later going on because that's one of the games that'll be a part of the CTF. The other one that I love to see is when somebody says like, you know what, I don't have a password on my network because it's hidden. If you don't know the name to it, you can't connect to it. No big deal. This is really, really secure. Well, at the end of the day, if somebody just connects to it, or if you just deauth someone and they reauth, you have the name of the network, you instantly log in, and there's no problem at all to get in. And again, this is just like WEP. You can watch some 11-year-old on YouTube do this, and it's just crazy easy. The next is DOSing an access point. So I really, this wasn't that big of a deal to me because, okay, at the end of the day, what does DOSing an access point get you? So an access point, if you're not familiar with that terminology, if you're not in the IT world, is just a router. Hey, your home Wi-Fi is not working because somebody, put a denial of service on it. It's really easy to do. You just clone the MAC address, clone the name of the SSID that you're attacking, and every other device on that network will just get instantly confused. And really, where I've seen this become really, really bad is for POS systems. Say you go to, like the ice cream shop and you can pay using your iPad in Square. Well, those are all on Wi-Fi. So if you just DOS that, you've effectively cut everyone in line once they can't serve anyone. And you just turn it off and you go, oh, okay, cool, no big deal. But this could be a lot worse. I mean, we had this problem when somebody who didn't know what they were doing said, hey, you know what, I'm going to set up a new access point on the floor, and then it just wiped out that entire area's wireless. Just because all the devices get confused, they can't do that ARP translation. And then bonus for the CTFs is get the admin password. It's not typically too hard, but this is one of those things that, breaking into somebody's wireless network, that's just the first step. It's just like breaking into a building. You crack the lock and, okay, great, you're in. Now what do you do? What can you steal? What's there? Are you going to run a giant port scan from somebody else's computer? Are you going to look for, OpenSSH? Are you going to look for vulnerable web servers? What are you going to do? So typically that's one of the last things that I see is, hey, you got to get from boot to root. You need to get the root user, steal the admin's password. So okay, let's talk about tools. So I've seen a lot of you guys have the TP-Link, the WN722, and I mean this is a really great little piece of hardware that you can get. It's just the standard little dongle that you put in your laptop. It's $15 on Amazon. You can't beat it. It has a little disconnect, so you can put a better antenna on it. You can put a K antenna, like I saw back there. You can put a Yagi if you want a really long range. You can put something like this directional ASUS card right here. You get kind of a flashlight approach, which is really useful depending on what you're doing. So it's a great little deal. You can do a lot of packet injection with it. It just works really well. And for $15, if this is something, hey, you know what, you have a laptop and you're interested in doing it, it's a great little tool to get started. Plus, it gives you an extra NIC on your laptop, so you can have one that you're doing, research, or maybe you have another, something you're doing with it. You're connected to an actual access point. And then you have the other one that you have hooked up to like a VM or something else. So it's just nice to have dual purpose there. And then the next thing, and this has come out in the past year, so you can talk to the hardware hacking guys. I'm sure they'll know a ton about this. It's called the ESP8266. So this thing is this little blue module right here. You can get them on eBay for about $3. And when they first came out, it was, hey, they do simple modem commands, the AT commands. And so that was pretty cool because, hey, you can stand up an access point. You can have it connect. It was a really cool, hey, this is the little Internet of Things, dongle that's super cheap. Well, you can use it really easily for DOSing because you can just clone a MAC address, clone an SSID, and then you've completely nuked that network. And you can run it off 2 AA batteries for about 24 hours. If you're feeling adventurous, you can hook it up to one of the little coin cell batteries and it'll run for another couple hours. Hook a neodymium magnet to it, throw it somewhere, and it will just stick and ruin someone's day. And where this was advantageous was, so we're doing the capture the flags at DEFCON, and there's the game, find the fox, find the rogue access point. Well, we found it. We were one of the first teams to find it, but then we set up a couple of these, and we set them all as the same MAC, all as the same SSID at different edges of the room. So when they were trying to triangulate it, they were just kind of going in circles. So these things, for what they are, they're so cheap, and they take a little bit of overhead to get going, but once you do, they're worth their weight in gold, and that's only $3. So next is your antenna. So depending on what you're doing, you may want a couple different things. You can see the TP-Link comes with your standard Omni antenna. You have your directional ASUS antennas. You can see the K antennas that they have in the back. You can see the Yagis that are ultra directional. These are all great. They all serve different purposes. Generally, if you're just getting started, if you're just like, you know what, I just want to fire up my laptop and spend a Saturday night trying to break some wireless deal that I own, just get one of these TP-Links. They're the way to go. The antenna works great, and you don't have to be super far away or super close to your access point to do anything. Software, again, if you're a seasoned veteran of IT, you can just get whatever you want, whatever Debian distribution, whatever Linux distribution, install all your own tools. No big deal. Don't get mad at me for saying like, oh, you tell people to use Kali. Use Kali. So if you're not familiar with Kali Linux is an operating system for free on the internet. It's something that's like a lot of getting started hackers use. Just because it has all the tools installed. It boots off of a USB thumb drive, so again, you don't have to mess up your laptop. You don't have to mess up anything. You can just do it, pull it out, restart your computer, and hey, you're back to your normal operating system. It's a great way to get your feet wet just using a thumb drive for your operating system. And then Kali comes with the AirCrack Suite. AirCrack Suite has a ton of tools that will crack the passwords for you. They'll smash WEP for you. It will allow you to generate passwords for WPA2. There's just a ton of things that'll let you do, and it'll give you way more, infinite times more information than what your phone would give you in terms of what's around you in terms of Wi-Fi. You can get signal strength. It'll update automatically for you. You can see all the different access points that are there. If if you are like, hey, this is something that I would really like to check out, it's really easy. Just go download Kali and just follow some YouTube setup on how to put it on a thumb drive. It'll be well worth your time, and just something that's kind of cool to have. All right, now let's talk about tactics. Now, these are offensive tactics from the point of you're getting started. These aren't your, you're super advanced and you know what you're doing already. And I mean, some of them still apply, the general basics, right? You have recon and information gathering, so fire up your phone even and just see what access points are out there, what type of security they have. Is it web? Is it open? Is it WPA? Is it WPA2? Is it WPA2 enterprise? You just do recon, just know what's out there, and just take lots of notes and don't waste time. And if you take good notes, you don't have to waste time second guessing yourself. This happened to us a lot where, we see a password and we're like, oh yeah, we got that. That was totally useful. And then what ends up happening is, oh, I need that later on. I need that password later on in the CTF, and that would have been really useful. Does anybody have that written down somewhere? Oh, you deleted that file because the PCAP was too big? All right, well, take good notes, write things down. You can use whatever you want. If it's Evernote, white paper, whatever. I find just the single pad of paper works great because you're not going to lose it. It's not going to get reformatted. It's not going to get deleted. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay in your pocket. All right, so steal what you can and break it offline. So for web, you can just destroy web immediately. So let's go to WPA2. WPA2, again, the standard of what normal home Wi-Fi routers are using, or just normal routers in general, typically using WPA2. So with this, what you can do is there's something called not pass the hash. It's called the four-way handshake. If you capture that four-way handshake, it has the encrypted key of the access point that you're trying to break into. So you can take that and you can break it offline, which means you could just do, you could roll up to somebody's house, or you could roll up to a business. You could steal this four-way handshake, take it back with you home, get a graphics card, and spend a lot of time cracking it. You don't need to sit out there in the parking lot trying to brute force it. And lastly, when you're doing a CTF, be stealthy. A lot of the times people feel like, oh, I'm doing a CTF. I don't need to be quiet. I can do an nmap of everything that's on this network. I can be really loud. But really, you should be looking at this and using a CTF as a point to look at this as an attacker. Look at this as like, hey, you're actually somebody that's trying to break in. So be a little bit stealthy, and then just that act alone will make you think that, okay, somebody who's actually doing this to try and steal information from you, it'll just put you in their shoes. So now let's talk about defensive tactics and tools. So just knowing your network. Typically, there's one of these things that if you're a really small business and you have that IT guy that's your friend's mom's brother once removed, that's really not going to do anything for you. Typically, a lot of things that we see from smaller networks is people just don't know anything that's on there. Or, they'll give out the Wi-Fi password and some kid will have it and he'll be torrenting things and they'll be like, oh, I have no idea where this came from. How did this happen? Same thing with your corporate network. A lot of people will be like, hey, I'm a sales rep and I need the Wi-Fi password real quick. Can you give it to me? And if that password doesn't get rolled, if something doesn't happen, well, you just need to be aware of what's on your network. And the easiest way, if you're just a novice and you're just like, oh, I just want to poke around and see what's actually there, there's an app called Fing for your iPhone. It's pretty general, really multi-purpose, works for Android, iOS. And it's just a general quick network scanner. Only scan your own networks with it. But it works really great for just seeing what's there. Hey, what's this? This doesn't look, very usual to me. Oh, that's right. I installed a printer. Or, wait a second, this is not a computer that's near me or that I even know what it is. I should probably think about changing my network password. To go along with that, use WPA2 always. Don't use web. Don't use open. Don't rely solely on hiding your SSID. All of those things are bad. Those things don't work really at all. And use strong passwords. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, and it's probably other users that aren't using strong passwords, but use something that's like 14 plus characters. Don't use your address. Don't use your phone number. I can't tell you how many passwords I've broken that are people who are naming their, or have their password as their pet, their, date of birth, some combination of all those things. And it makes it really easy to throw that in some kind of program that will just mix it all up and just give you a dictionary list to go through. And next, use 2.4 and 5 gigahertz to avoid DOSing. And the reason that I say that is if you're somebody who's going to be an asshat and you're going to have an ESP module, those modules, they only run off 2.4 gigahertz. And so that 5 gigahertz spectrum, that'll still help you out if you're running a small little POS somewhere. And again, I'm probably preaching to the choir, but never do anything important in a coffee shop. I mean, if you just connect to the guest one right now, they'll show you or the guest CypherCon network, they'll show you any credentials going clear over the wire. And if you've done a CTF and you can see what credentials and how easy it is to steal a credential over the wire, it's absolutely insane. And so it's one of the reasons that I really encourage just all of our engineers at our company, hey, we should all get involved in a CTF, at least try it out, because it's one of these things, just knowing it and just saying like, hey, this is kind of hard and I have a deadline to meet and I would rather just, submit my commit or, push my code up and just have it be done. Maybe they'll think twice when they see how easy it is. Hey, I'm just going to get LDAP, in clear text. I'm not going to put certs on anything, or I'm not even going to have valid certs. It's just really important. So next, this is my personal favorite challenge, and it's called Finding the Fox, Find the Bunny, Fox Hunt, any number of different things. Basically, it's a way to go find a rogue access point. And so if you're not familiar with how this actually works out, you're trying to triangulate it. So if you have, if somebody has a rogue access point, like, if you have one of these little mobile hotspots or whatever, it's a really good thing to try and just see how well you can triangulate it. Depending on different antennas, you get to know your equipment a lot better as to the sensitivity and things that are out there. And if something pops up and you know how to triangulate a rogue access point, we've done it where we can find like, oh yeah, this user totally didn't mean to do this, and he's, has an open connection to, the outside world, so anybody can roll up in the parking lot and they can connect to that open network, and it's just as good as being on our corporate network. And those are the things we like to shut down, and so the faster you can find it, the easier it is you can knock it out. And users who just think, hey, I'm making this easier on myself, I'm making this easier on my friends, they're completely decreasing security. And the faster that you can find it, the better. And we have a challenge. It was, hey, whoever can find it the fastest, you get a beer, you get your lunch bot, just to see who can get it the quickest, and to make sure that you stamp out any of the rogue access points that you find. And yeah, it's extremely practical for finding rogue access points. And going back to, if you look at that ASUS antenna earlier in my presentation, it acts kind of like a flashlight. So it's directional, so you're not sitting there just kind of running in circles trying to find an access point. You can actually see, kind of the direction that it's coming from, and it makes things a lot easier. So if you guys, I got really loud. So if you guys are interested in the Fox Hunt, this is what it looks like. There's going to be a number of these scattered throughout I forget what the name of the place is that we're going tomorrow night, the spy place. So these are going to be scattered around. They have they need magnets on them. They can last forever. They'll be under chairs, behind pictures, you name it. And this is one of these things that if you just come and all you have is your phone, you can still find it and you can still get credit for Capture the Con. And you might even get someone to buy you a drink if you give them the helpful code that will help them break the WPA2. So with that, just come CTF.